Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Toprak Razgatlioglu made his first public appearance on a MotoGP bike at the post-season Valencia test. And while the lap times looked modest, his camps say that what we saw was simply the cautious opening act of a much bigger story. Manager Kenan Sofuoglu believes the Turkish WorldSBK champion is still learning the machine and the tires, and that the real Toprak, aggressive braking, stoppies and all, will arrive after a few more outings. At the Valencia post-season test, KTM brought a fresh aero and a new seat unit that caught riders' attention, but initial runs left engineers with more questions than answers. Tech 3's Enea Bastianini called the seat a big change with potential, yet said the balance wasn't correct. Overall, the new aero ideas proved neither fully positive nor wholly negative, leaving KTM with a clear development task over winter. A week after sealing his 7th MotoGP world title, Márquez revealed he wanted to ride the Valencia post-race test, but his medical team issued an ultimatum he could not accept. Recovering from a complicated shoulder operation following his Indonesian GP crash with Marco Bezzecchi, Márquez had his sling removed shortly before Valencia but told Ducati's Inside Video that he could not quiet the "what if." In his head, doctors warned that while he could ride so long as he didn't crash, Márquez admitted he couldn't take that conditional risk. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Valencia was a debut under mixed conditions, a damp, patchy morning and only a dry afternoon for meaningful running. Toprak ended the day 18th, roughly 1.3 seconds off the day's best time, Raul Fernandez. On paper that's a long way back, but Sofuoglu urged caution when reading the numbers. Honestly, when you look at the lap time he's around 1.5 seconds slower, but when I watch him I'm not watching like our Toprak. First tests are about understanding tires, ergonomics and confidence, not headline lap times. The Pramac Yamaha program deliberately kept Toprak conservative, limited V4 machinery on site, and no rush to replicate his superbike style immediately. Sofuoglu said the rider is a bit scared right now and that the team are prioritizing learning over outright speed. That careful approach is standard for rookies switching categories. Gain consistent data first, then open the throttle later. Many pundits wondered whether Toprak's aggressive superbike braking would translate to MotoGP. Sofuoglu dismissed skepticism. He expects Toprak to bring his trademark late braking and sliding to MotoGP once he's comfortable with the bike and Michelin's. People think he can't brake like in WSBK, but before he even came to superbike he rode like this. Wait and see. If Toprak keeps his braking identity, he could be a disruptive force, but only once he's adapted to the tires and electronics. The plan is conservative and staged. Initial shakedowns, measured laps, data gathering and avoiding crashes. Sofuoglu stressed there's no pressure to chase lap times now. The team want to learn tire behavior, ergonomics and electronics before ramping up. That method lowers short-term headlines but increases the chance of a sustainable adaptation to MotoGP. Despite the cautious debut, Sofuoglu is upbeat. He expects the real Toprak to emerge after a couple tests, stoppies, slides and the hard braking that defined his WSBK career. He also set ambitious targets, relative parity with Yamaha's established riders and being competitive with the factory quartet. Probably after a couple of tests we will see the real Toprak. When the time comes we will push him. That timeline, a few more tests, is short, but it depends on seat time, confidence and tire knowledge. Toprak's Valencia outing was far from fluent, but it was useful. Baseline data collected, ergonomics checked and a cautious start made without incident. Sofuoglu closed by reminding observers that Toprak's long-term goal is crystal clear. Challenge the established names, including Fabio Quartararo, and be up the front in 2026. Expect incremental improvements. The headline lap will come later. The test's real value was buying the team seconds of understanding that could pay dividends next season. Valencia didn't reveal a superstar lap from Toprak Razgatlioglu, but it did show a sensible debut, measured, data-driven and deliberately unflashy. If Sofuoglu's read is right, the paddock will soon see the Toprak everyone knows from WorldSBK, just with MotoGP tires, a new engine concept and a little more patience. Bastianini rode KTM's new rear aero plus seat concept and described it as a substantial departure from the package he used all season. He tested it only briefly, 2 runs, because the chassis he was using differed from his usual setup. It was a big change from what we used all year. I think that seat has potential, but the balance was not correct at the moment. Short runs gave data, but not the consistency the team needs. Potential exists, but balance and chassis matching must be fixed before any clear performance gain is realized. On paper, the new seat/aero package returned more or less the same lap time as the standard bike. That underlines the point that outright pace hasn't yet improved. What's needed is tuning. Bastianini preferred to revert to his normal bike after the initial tries. When a big concept only matches baseline lap time, engineers focus on extracting the positives, stability, traction, aero gain, while eliminating the negatives, balance shifts, handling vagaries. KTM trialed several fairings during the test. Riders reported the usual trade-offs. Each fairing brought some benefits and some drawbacks, so the team will need to blend solutions rather than pick a single silver bullet. Bastianini said the riders' comments were broadly aligned. All the fairings have something positive, but also something negative. We need to mix something. Consensus among riders is useful. It gives KTM a clear starting point for hybridizing aero concepts. The test was hampered early by a surface that wasn't usable after overnight rain, restricting setup work in the morning. That lost time matters when evaluating major hardware changes, and Bastianini said he didn't get the full program in as a result. Wet mornings often skew test priorities. When you're validating new aero, every dry lap counts. KTM's stablemates echoed similar impressions. There are gray areas in the new aero that complicate the decision on how to develop next. Pedro Acosta led KTM running-wise, 53 laps, P5 on the day, but even he flagged that the updates weren't black and white. Positives exist, but the direction isn't yet obvious. That's a sensible outcome for a test focused on innovation. Confirm what helps, discard what hurts, and prepare a mixed solution for winter development. Valencia's KTM experiment delivered encouraging flashes, a seat with promise, fairings with useful traits, but nothing immediate to flip the performance script. The new parts created more variables than answers, so KTM's engineers now face the classic post-test homework: sort balance issues, decide which aero gains survive compromise, and bring a refined package to winter work. Márquez asked his doctors for permission to join the Valencia test. Their reply was blunt: no, unless he accepted the caveat. If you don't crash, you can do it. He wanted to test but couldn't ignore the possibility of a fall. For a rider whose instincts are to ride through pain, the medical team's conditional approval felt like a red line, one he was unwilling to cross. The injury followed a collision with Marco Bezzecchi at the Indonesian GP. Márquez underwent shoulder surgery a week after the incident, ruling him out for the season's final rounds. Progress has been steady. The sling was removed ahead of Valencia, but full return remains cautious and measured. The timeline underlines why doctors favored prudence. Short-term tests risk longer setbacks. The Valencia test is a magnetic draw for any champion: data, rhythm, and the itch to be on track. Márquez's request shows how hard it is for elite riders to be sidelined. Yet his answer, to decline the doctor's conditional go-ahead, signals a longer-term view. It's a rare public moment where instinct yields to strategy. Protect the long game rather than chase immediate return. During the layoff, stories circulated that a surgical screw in Márquez's right shoulder had bent following the Indonesian crash. He clarified the detail to his mechanics. The bent screw dates to his 2020 humorous break and had been deformed then. It was not newly bent by the recent crash. Don't worry about the bent screw. It's been like that since 2020. The clarification cuts through speculation and highlights how past injuries can complicate new recoveries. With Márquez sidelined for the final 2 rounds, Ducati drafted WorldSBK rider Nicolo Bilega as his stand-in. Bilega also took part in the Valencia test. Ducati has signaled an expanded role for Bilega in 2026 testing, including a leading part in 2027 bike development. The short-term replacement both covers Márquez's absence and primes Ducati's testing pipeline, a pragmatic step while their champion heals. Marc Márquez's Valencia episode is a snapshot of recovery tensions in top-level motorsport, the urge to race versus the discipline to heal. Crowned world champion days earlier and making steady progress after surgery, Márquez chose the conservative path when faced with a conditional medical green light. For now, patience, not adrenaline, will dictate his return to the Ducati, as he balances the appetite to ride with the hard calculus of long-term fitness. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!